I really appreciate your having me. And it seems like Jed must have come in here at lunchtime and stolen my speech. He made a couple of good points that I think are worth reiterating, though. When he talks about limitations on staffing in that example he gave of that fire at the beach, it's important to remember that we're trying to get back to a staffing level that existed before we had layoffs in 2005. So for the past 17 years, we've been operating short one firefighter. And that's been a significant impediment. That's when we closed the beach ambulance. So it was in July of 2005, I'm sorry. And we haven't staffed an ambulance there regularly since then. If we're able to add one person per shift, we will move an ambulance to the beach. We will likely move our ladder to the beach and get it closer to the area of greatest need. It will also allow us to better staff uptown. It'll be a more efficient use. When Jed talked about thinking outside the box, it's not uniquely something of mine, but I put to all of our officers the question of how do we make a better use of the resources that are given to us, provided to us by the taxpayers. And I got a lot of thoughtful responses from 8 or 10 folks here. And I think that adding one person, it doesn't sound like very many, but it will really make a remarkable difference in our ability to provide you services. Those of you who are paying for it, I pay for it too. I live right here in town. I don't know if you're aware, but last year in 2021, we had 46 instances where Engine 1 right here in headquarters was out of service with the captain home alone because the firefighters here were on multiple ambulance calls. We don't have an ambulance at the beach. Nobody comes in for callback in that circumstance because we guys like Jed are home with young kids, which frankly is where young parents belong. That's what I did when I was his age and his point in his career. Those are meaningful impacts that we can have on the entire community, being able to provide that service, whether it's on a fire call, a second or even third ambulance call that's happening concurrently. I think Amy touched on it when she said that we've had a long period of just maintaining, and we have just maintained. And firefighters will always, if you don't give us enough people or enough stuff, we're still going to come. We're going to come to your emergency. We're going to address your need. But, you get to a point where it becomes a challenge, and we want to meet the needs of the community. It's a growing community. It's a vibrant community. I've been working in Hampton for 40 years, for the fire department for 27. So, I have a pretty good appreciation of it. And having folks like Jed on our team is quite helpful. With respect to the grant fund that Jed mentioned, it's a federal program called SAFER, Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response is what it stands for. I completed that application process last month. That has been submitted. If we are successful in receiving that, that'll pay 100% of wages and benefits for 4 firefighters for 3 years. That's a unique variation on that particular grant program. Some of that is money that they had coming out of some federal COVID funding. But doesn't matter where they get the money. If we get that, that's a meaningful impact, almost $1.2 million over 3 years to Hampton taxpayers. That'll be a significant savings. We need support on Article 16 in order to be permitted to hire those positions. So I think, that's sort of the message on that. During the summer, it'll take a lot of the pressure off the uptown ambulance, which is the only ambulance here on Winnacunnet Road, by having a second one staffed at the beach. And we will do that if we're able to get those folks. Jed mentioned Article 19 on an engine, and I know Amy did too. We actually need 2, but we're only looking for 1 this year, and that'll come from the unexpended fund balance. We have one that's been out of service for 10 months now, so we only have 3 in town, which is a real operational challenge at certain time. Does anybody have any questions, or and if anybody has anything that they don't think of tonight, please feel free to call me in the office. You can stop by if you want. I'm here on weekdays. I'll meet you for coffee sometime outside if you'd like. I know we've had a couple of folks. I see Catherine and Amy, both of whom were on the call tonight, have been by and didn't really know what we did. And I took them on the nickel tour, and I got lots of nickels. I'd be happy to give the tour to anyone.
Chief McMahon, I have a quick question. So
Certainly.
are you saying, from what I understand, if we add those positions,
Yep.
then that makes us available for the federal grant that you were talking about that pays for, what did you say, 4 full-time firefighters for 3 years?
When I wrote the grant application, I wrote it seeking 4. And that's a wages and benefits only, but that's the bulk of the expense, of course. Yeah, the way I understand it, the passage of this article would give the town the authority to hire those additional personnel.
Great.
The grant isn't connected to it directly. Theoretically, the article could fail. We could get the grant funds. Whether we can accept them or not is a local, I don't know what that's going to require. Let's not get to that point.
Yeah, good call.
My hope is we're going to get this done next Tuesday. And if I can find 4 people, it's tough to hire folks. This is a real shortage. And I know that I see Clay on here from the police. They have similar problems in finding folks. Hopefully successful passage of their collective bargaining agreements will help relieve that a little bit.
Chief, and the purchase of the fire truck.
Yep.
So that's not going to add to our income tax bill because it's coming from a reserve account, correct?
Yeah, that's from the unexpended fund balance.
Okay.
There are a number of items this year on the warrant like that. We already have the money. It's from previously raised tax dollars. And
so, and the lifetime of a fire truck, just for those of us who've never actually ridden on one, is that like a 20-year lifespan?
So the one that we're looking to most likely send down the road is 21 years old now. It'll probably be 23 or so by the time we get the replacement. It'll take about 2 years to actually take delivery of something new. It's in tough shape. We had a sister truck, basically a twin to it, that we lost at 15 years to corrosion because it ran at the beach for a number of years. We are having similar problems with this one now. The one that is next after that, we bought used to replace that other one, but that's been out of service for 10 months following a wreck.
Okay.